Earth Riparians, it's Woody. Today we're going to learn how to build a raised bed, cheap, fast, and easy. Come on, River Dog, let's go. The first thing to do when building a raised bed is to choose a site. We chose this site today because of the sun path, the human flows coming through here. We didn't want to put it right in the middle of a human path. And we also chose it for a good breezy area that will grow lots of food, but also be out of the hot heat of the afternoon Texas sun. First, we leveled out the area just to get a little bit of a levelness to the ground. Leveled it out, we're going to move on to the tools that we need for this project. The wood we'll be using for the main structure of this bed is 6 10-foot long 2x12s. We'll use 3 of them to make a 10-foot by 4-foot rectangular box as the base, and then we'll repeat the process to stack another layer on top. For each rectangular box, we're going to cut one of those 10-foot long 2x12s into 2 4-foot long pieces to make our ends. Later on in the build, we'll use some 2x4s to make our railing and support struts. This board has a little bit of a curvature to it, so you're always thinking about that when you're putting your box together. You don't put that curvature to hold the wood in or out. Your screws will pull a little bit of that in, but I'm choosing to put that curve towards the box, towards the insides of the box. You can choose to put the long boards to the outside or the inside. That's up to you. Do you want a 4-foot or a 4-foot plus? We're using 3-inch T25 coated deck screws for this build. 2 drills, one's for drilling pilot holes because you do not want your boards to split on the ends, and then one for drilling the screws. I'm going to prop this board up with a little bit of that mulch so I can get it up to the height that I need. And it's right there. I'm going to put 3 holes in each end and space them out evenly. I'm getting a little bit of movement here. I could clamp this together, but since this isn't really a serious construction project and we're just having fun with it, we're just going to fly free a little bit. And that'll cinch up the joint. You can see how that's a really nice finish there. And we've got a solid joint. And then we'll move to the other end, the other 4 corners, and then we'll build the second box, and we'll show you how we'll put those together with our cleats or our struts on the outside of the box. We got a box. Now we're building the second layer of the box. We want the box to be 2 feet high or almost 2 feet high so that we don't have to bend down all the time into our beds. I'm looking forward to having a raised bed that's truly a raised bed so that I'm literally gardening while I'm standing up. I'm gonna see if I can set this on here and kind of use this as a jig to hold my 2 boards and get my first joint connected. Go ahead and place this one down here. So there we go. I'm kind of using the bottom box as a jig. That kind of works. So I'm going to get that first screw in to my pilot hole, and you can see how everything's lined up real nice, and then I'll drill my other holes. I could have done that on the first board, but it was lining up pretty nicely. But this does help keep the boards together. You can see there's a split. You get this a lot on these boards. If I was not using this countersink bit and pre-drilling these holes, this whole board would have split in half when I did that, if you just run a screw into it. So it's so important to drill your pilot holes. So we got that corner, and now we can go ahead and put all 3 other corners together. So you make sure you're lining your boards up as well as possible. They don't have to be perfect. We're not building kitchen cabinets here, we're building a raised bed. It's going to create abundance and food security in our lives. The second layer, once we get the rail on here, is going to allow me to sit on the rail and work inside the beds like this at even a better height, almost a chair height, as opposed to if I was working down here, I'd have to bend farther down. So I really think this height of this bed is going to help our process, harvesting, seeding, weeding. So next we'll measure our rails and check our materials that we got for 20 cents on the dollar on Facebook Marketplace. These are the 12 footers. I'll lay one down. We'll go ahead and cut these boards, mark the length like that. And then what's the rule? Measure twice, cut once. And there's our 10-foot rail for this side. It's the perfect length. Free cutting this. And so we have our two rail boards. I'm going to lay this over here, and then I'm going to start thinking about our cleats or struts that are going to serve two purposes. They're going to connect these two and give the structure a little bit more stability. I just had these cutoffs so we can see if these cutoffs are long enough, because we want these struts to come up even with this side of the box to support the rail. I was thinking I might add some stability to go to the ground, but I really don't think it's necessary. And you're also going to get more rot from an end cut than you're going to get from a side cut in a board. So we're just asking for rot if we put this end cut to the ground. So we're going to leave that up off the ground, and I'll be able to use my cutoffs as our materials for this. Then I need to decide how many I want. And we'll run a test on this side and see where we end up. Let me measure this board, and we can cut some more out of that other piece we have at 20 inches. So I decided to put 4 20-inch struts on each long side of the bed and 3 struts on each of the ends. That makes a total of 14 struts that will keep our raised bed sturdy and secure. We're going to go ahead and put these on the ends. And then I'm going to fill my centers after I lay the rail on there. So these screws are not going all the way through. If you lay it, this is the best test. If you lay it down, just make sure that screw doesn't go through. You can see why you would not want that screw poking through the inside of the bed. And once you put those screws in, it really starts to cinch things up, turn it out to be a nice little box. For how little time it takes to do something like this, I'm thinking the reward is going to be pretty amazing. You can have one heck of a growing system in your property in a pretty small amount of space. So I'm putting these on the ends as a starting point so that our top 2x4 is going to lay over like this. It's kind of a nice little design detail here on the ends, but more importantly, it's for support so that this board hits here and this board hits here, and we've got good support on all ends of the top rail. And then we're going to support it in this long piece in 2 different places, and then on the ends in at least one spot. I think that's going to be ideal. We'll see how that works after we get to this corner on. Yeah, I'm going to bring that down a little bit. And that really tightened it up. Like, we're starting to get a really nice structure here with this box. These boards cost me less than, the big boards were less than $5 a piece. We're well under $50 for these materials right here. That is such a huge, empowering thing to be able to build this for less than $50. And later on, we're going to show you how to build soil for less than $50. This whole project is going to be done for under $100. So we cut our side rails. You can see how this system just pieces together like Lincoln logs. I'm gonna put 2 more screws on top of each strut. You see we have a little bit of an overhang here over the cleat, and since that's an end cut on that cleat, that's gonna keep that end cut, the rain pouring down the side of it instead of in the top of that end cut, and make the wood last just that much longer. These little details don't seem to be important, but when they can add 2 or 3 years to your system, you might as well dot your I's and cross your T's. We brought in one last 2x4 to make our end rails, and now we've got a nice finished side rail to sit on. So we finished with the build of the bed, and now it's time to level the bed. So this corner needs to come up, and that corner needs to come up. You could use your no-break rake if you were so inclined to get up underneath here and kind of hold it while you stuff some material under there. You can step back and look at your bubble. Lift it up a little higher so you can get some material underneath it, and then set it back down. Now that was cheap, fast, and easy. We built this raised bed for under $100 in around an hour's time. Be sure to like and subscribe below so you can see our next video about how to fill this raised bed for under $50. You can also watch our other videos about building soil and composting to see how to finish off your raised bed. I'm Woody, I'm an Earthoparian. You too are an Earthoparian. We'll see you next time.